Hello, people of the world of the internet watching videos that have to do with cars. Welcome to this, my 1974 RA21 Toyota Celica ST, housing a 2005 Toyota Tundra 2UZ VVTi V8. If you need to get filled in on the last video in this project series, up above my head is a link to it. For everyone else, this is going to be a bit of a different style video for me. As much as I've tried to do everything myself on the restoration and build of this car, I also know my limitations, and when it comes to welding, I don't want to just half-ass it and appear like I'm an expert for a YouTube video when I'm clearly not. So what I did was called in an expert that has been welding his entire life and also used to weld for SpaceX on their rockets. Now, ideally, he would be fabricating this exhaust in his own shop because all of his equipment is there. However, just because this car isn't easily mobile, he came here to do the initial fabrication at my shop and then is going to take the rest of the exhaust to his own shop to do the finished welding where it can be back purged. Initially, I had wanted to do the entire exhaust system out of titanium, but unfortunately I ran into an issue where certain pieces did not exist out of titanium, specifically some of the bends that I would need to make this. And it just ended up ballooning the cost to where it was not realistically possible to make it happen. So I went with a titanium axle back section, and then it blends to stainless all the way up to the engine. The concept I had in my head for the styling of the tail half of the exhaust, since it is a major focal point on the car, was to incorporate the OEM Plus 1970s look. I went for the overall vehicle styling, while taking into consideration it has a 4.7 liter V8 now from the year 2005, and a pea shooter tip is not going to cut it. The angle makes it look sick. Like the angle, I mean, obviously it's not going to be this far out, but...
Take a piece of straight out of here, maybe 3 inches, so I can insert it in here so it stays. From there, it'll go up and over the rear.
The vision I had in my mind was to tie in styling cues from the vintage Camry exhausts, which were available for these cars back in the day, while blending it with a style of a slightly more modern exhaust, one of my favorites, the Apex I Dual N1, which will give a of-the-era look for this car, but still be functional since it is going to be 76mm diameter piping.
So check this out. So right up here, I guess I'm going to have at least a ½ inch between the header or the exhaust and the body. Cut this angle so it'll just go straight down.
That's stainless?
No, that's I made a slit. You know that this straight.
Oh, so that's titanium also.
So that's titanium. It's titanium, and then I just made a little 1-inch slit to go in there. So because whenever you do a muffler and it's like you have like no room to go anywhere, you know, you have to go to rotate and twist and turn.
Yeah, so the stainless slides into the titanium.
Yes, and that there's going to be a spring right there.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got it. Oh, that's neat. The largest challenge of this entire exhaust system is going to be over the rear axle, since I have a much larger diameter beefy rear axle than the factory one, and also you don't want it too close to the underside of the body, considering the fuel tank is directly above there.
I can just angle it more.
Whilst Forrest was taking care of the exhaust system, I didn't want to just stand here with a camera and be useless, so I started taking care of some other stuff that I needed to knock out to get this car finished up. I started to develop a bit of a backlog of things that I was pushing off to the side just because it's really difficult to try to film some of this stuff and put it in videos. Like, for instance, the driver's side inner fender liner. And that is a tool I don't use often enough. Fire! It's the solution to almost everything in life. If you can't do it, burn it until you can. I don't know if that's actually something that you should live by, but it worked in this instance. Then following it up with a bit of my Blaster 5000 to burn off any nose hairs I had left over from using the propane torch. Followed by some Take Shelter, which is a fallout or iron remover and works really well at getting rid of rust on metal, which obviously I don't want festering underneath the rubber undercoating that I'm going to put on this after I treat it with some phosphoric acid. Whilst Forrest was knocking out the exhaust, Charlie offered a solution for the front anti-sway bar hitting the oil pan, and he thought he had a fix for it. So he came by biggest challenge with making clearance on the oil pan for the front anti-sway bar is the unknown factor of just how much that front anti-sway bar will move as the suspension travels. So to compensate for this, Charlie came up with the idea to use a 2-inch diameter exhaust pipe and a brand new Lexus Toyota oil pan. That way it never had any oil in it before, which would cause an issue if you're trying to weld it and it had years of old oil that had been sitting in there permeating into the metal. The 2-inch diameter exhaust pipe is quite a bit larger diameter than the anti-sway bar, and in theory it should give enough room all the way around the sway bar to compensate for any movements as the suspension travels.
Okay. I'm happy with it. Are you happy with it?
Yeah, let's get this. And based on its location, it really shouldn't affect the overall oil capacity of the sump, and also in consideration with the fact that I'm running a remote oil cooler, which adds an additional 1.5 to 2 quarts. And now that that's done, I'm going to spend the rest of the day knocking out tasks that are just kind of impossible to make into a complete YouTube video, like scuffing these sills for powder coat. If you guys remember when I did the catback exhaust on the Celica Supra, as well as my Ura Quattro, both of which were sourced from specialty shops that specialize in each one of those specific vehicles, and they still didn't fit quite perfectly. A lot of that has to do with, especially in the mid-pipe section, when you're doing final adjustments of tacking everything together, a micromillimeter up front can translate to several inches off back at the tip. So it's critical to get this part right. One of the things I notice he's super adamant about when fabricating stuff is cleanliness of the metal before anything takes place. Welds, cuts, literally there's vacuuming and wiping with acetone over and over and over again, which is why I believe the finished product looks so incredibly good. It's that extra step and attention to detail that goes a long way. Additionally, with the Celica Supra, an issue I ran into in that car, especially because of the fact that it's a longer wheelbase than these RA chassis Celicas, is the mid-pipe would rub going over steep driveways at the breakover angle point. And on this car, it is shorter wheelbase, it's not as low, but Forrest is specifically designing that into the mid-pipe so that way it bends up right after the flex pipes and is parallel with the drive shaft. Literally perfectly parallel with the drive shaft. An OCD touch that I love. And now you're caught up to the current day. The exhaust is gone. Forrest has it at his own shop and is doing all the final welds since he has to back purge everything. And I'm gonna take care of this. A component this car never had because the original engine was carbureted. It feels weird just filming and having other people do work. I don't like it. My design for this is inspired by another well-known Japanese company that makes parts for vehicles, but unfortunately they don't make anything for a Tundra V8 shoved into a RA chassis Celica. Good thing cardboard is square, because so is this. I don't need it to be too big.
240 millimeters is about 9.4 inches.
9.4 inches? That's a big air filter. Yep. Without having the filters here, it's gonna be a little tricky to design the lip where they have to sit, and they're only stocked in Japan. I couldn't find any in the US. I need some cardboard pieces the size of the filters. I also want to try to incorporate the actual shape of the OEM Tundra airbox if I can as well. 230 by 170 millimeter top filter. 170, 120. Hopefully this accounts for the rubber surround as well. 170 by 120 millimeter bottom filter. Now that I can simulate the air filters, I can design the box. How do I do this? I can't make the airbox seal against the top of the hood because there is no venting up here. I have a vent back here, but that's where the wiper motor is. So a side filter and a front filter, perhaps? I have a tendency to overanalyze and overthink things when I'm designing them. So I need to just really look at the company that's been making these airboxes for as long as I've been alive, probably longer. I also gotta take into account the intake pipe, which is the same diameter as this. Right about there. It might look like it took a couple minutes to make this on a YouTube video, but I actually spent a good part of an entire day doing this, and it's still not even done yet because I don't have the filters. This part's gonna be hard. I gotta make a triangle. I don't think I can use this cardboard piece. It's kind of janky. The only way I'm gonna make this thing square is to have a side. This is actually turning out to be a lot more rigid than I thought it was going to, considering it's cardboard. Considering I suck at wrapping Christmas presents, I'm amazed that I'm actually pulling this off. Yeah, science. Followed by the iconic Jesse Pinkman part of that quote. This thing's trying to collapse in on itself. It's kind of hard to get this last piece taped. Ta-da! A real cardboard induction box. So now, this must fit. Well, that's tight. May have to modify a bit. Even though I am going to use silicone couplings between the engine and the intake tube itself, I want to leave room for rubber isolator mounts. There we go. That way the air box is suspended inside the fender well area here. Ta-da! There we go. Now it clears the bottom by the wheel well. That fits nicely. It's a day later, and hopefully this afternoon, Forrest should be arriving with the finished product. Next conundrum, I have a finger's width between the header and the rubber boot for the steering rack. But luckily, cardboard is completely flame resistant, so I can just shove this up in there with some zip ties and done deal. Good. There's a bolt right there that's not really being utilized. I got the idea for this design actually from my old 8N Audi TT Quattro. Hold it right there. Had something similar on it. Bolt it right there. That will help keep its shape. As I mentioned in a previous video, the driver's side is a different story. The rubber boot is physically touching the header. So if you try to shove a heat shield in here or wrap the header, as this thing moves, when you turn, it's just gonna wear a hole in the top and you'll have grease getting everywhere. So the only solution is the header, the lower header collectors have to get redone. And Forrest is gonna take the header, since he's the one that made them, and just cut and adjust and give me another little bit of clearance. And with a little field trip to my favorite custom barbecue shop, it kind of looks like a cute little detached Canadian robot head. Go robot, go. Dave helped me out with a plasma table to turn some more cardboard into metal. That stuff smells bad. Something tells me you probably shouldn't breathe that in. It's literally like green smoke. Just a pigeon smidgen.
There you go.
Can you milk a chicken?
Can milk a chicken if it's got big enough tits.
Okay, thank you custom barbecue guys. Moment of truth, I'm gonna have to undo all these lines. Either way, strong enough to protect them. Just gonna put some holes in the side. And the dust shield. Oh, it's just a smidge too tight. I don't know if it was this transmission or what vehicle it was, but I swear there's supposed to be a little rubber gasket that goes along the top. Maybe I'm thinking of a different... Oh, I gotta wire wheel this. Looks like a piece of bread for a robot. I gotta clean up the fuzzies on the edge anyway, so it's smooth. It was only a matter of time until this thing started melting the nitrile gloves into my fingertips. Where is it hitting? Oh, it's hitting over here? Alright, I give in. I'll wear gloves. For whatever reason, it smells like popcorn in here now. I think it's my flesh burning. I don't know if I could get a rubber gasket in there. It's just because of the bead weld on this custom upper part of the pan. But yeah, that'll do. So Forrest just arrived. He's unloading the exhaust. We gotta test fit it and see if there's any revisions that need to be made. But this already looks like a work of art.
We got to make sure that this all fits, because like usually while like building in sections, because stainless likes to move a lot.
Yeah. You can't even, oh my god, those welds are like invisible. That's crazy. There isn't a coin small enough to name this stack. That's a bead. That's insane. It's like micromillimeter.
We need to get rid of some of this room space right here too.
Yeah. You literally gotta make like maybe 1 or 2 cuts and just...
We'll take that up higher.
Yeah, just tweak this right here and it'll be perfect. The question is, does it actually hit? Because we haven't really tested to see how far the suspension travel is, and I don't think it's very much on this car. How's that doing?
That's good.
The big nut on
Yeah.
on the 4-link?
Yep. Yeah, that's hitting. It's about 1 inch, but when you squish down, it goes to a 1/2 inch. No, it's just hitting the bolt.
Okay. I mean, it'll gain a hair clearance, just a hair. Yeah, cause I mean, that is true. You don't want it like kissing the bottom of the car.
Right.
For a one-off exhaust system that was only partially fabricated on site, just barely having any contact on the upper 4-link bracket, I would say is a win. It'll be an easy fix.
You want to jump on it again?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in. Yeah.
I flipped this bolt around so that way the head is over here on this side, but it still just barely kisses the bottom of the pipe right here. And if you look up above, you can see there's about 2 inches where the exhaust could go even higher. And that's just primarily due to the exhaust changing as the full welds were being completed, since it wasn't done here with the car because I don't have the correct welding set up. Because you're trying not to do pie cuts because you think they look stupid, right?
Exactly, yeah, no pie cuts.
I know a lot of like the internet loves pie cuts, but
I hate pie cuts.
yeah, I mean, this does look a lot cleaner. It flows. It's not like chop, 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 chop all over the place.
Right.
For those of you that didn't know, exhaust hangers have a hardness scale that determines how much flex they have. And these are fairly soft. So I'm going to order some urethane ones, which should remove some of the side-to-side movement it allows this. So there you go. With the exception of a couple tweaks that he's going to make over the rear axle and to the lower collectors and the driver header when he comes back, that is the finished product of the exhaust. I'm beyond happy how this turned out, especially right here where it steps up to a 3-inch diameter from the 2.5. It's kind of like how Lexus, Toyota does it from the factory. And you can see the mid pipe steps up right here in the middle, right at the breakover point, so that way it doesn't rub on the ground and it follows the same contour as the drive shaft. A nice little slope over to the side and a similar one right back over here. And then the titanium muffler section, it protrudes just to the middle of the chrome bumper, just as the factory one would. It has that rake angle going to the driver's side, as well as the upwards angle that follows the profile of the back of the car. You can see the little spring that holds the titanium section to the stainless section where it slips together. So with that said, the next video I do on the Celica is gonna be a lot of all that stuff I've been designing with cardboard getting implemented onto the vehicle, as well as the custom airbox and the filter skit here. Forrest is going to do the welding on that so it looks like it came from a robot. Hopefully though, there should only be some minor fabrication left to do on this car, so then I can completely assemble the rest of it. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll have an update coming on the Bronco hardtop situation for you, as well as some other stuff. And okay, thank you, bye.